5 days separated our first and second hunt. Throughout that time, we couldn't really get antelope off of our mind. We did lots of research, read a lot of articles, watched a lot of videos, and shot our bows at long distances a lot. Sunday couldn't come fast enough. Alright, getting ready for round 2. It's about 4:30. I'm gonna go get Jessen's tree stand set up. I'm gonna set it up on a telephone pole above a little watering hole, and I'm gonna go sit up on a ridge with the spotter and see if I can catch something coming in. So we got about 45 minutes until first light, so we're gonna get a move on here. Just made it up the hill. Still got a little bit before first light. Just getting everything set up. Jessen should be just about up the tree stand by now, so I'm gonna wait for some sun now. We were both in position. Jessen was set in his tree stand over the water hole, and I was up on the ridge utilizing my 360-degree view of the land around me. As it continued to get light, I finally spotted a buck bedded down about 1,000 yards away from me. He looked to be a good one, and I watched him for over an hour and a half as he continued to stay bedded. As I was watching the buck, I glanced over at Jessen to find that he was surrounded by cattle. If you remember from the first video, Jessen is scared of cows, so this was probably a lot of fun for him. I know it was fun for me to watch, as over 50 head continued to move in, scratching their heads on his telephone pole and staring up at him. Eventually they all moved off, just in time for the buck that I'd been watching to stand up and start moving in my direction. This was where I learned my second lesson. Well, after about an hour and a half, the buck stood up. Let's see what he's going to do now. He's still quite a ways off. The buck moved gradually towards me and to my left. My north and south running ridgeline that I was sitting on would act as perfect cover, so I dropped off the backside and covered ground really quickly to try to make it up on the buck and close the distance. Alright, so working in towards this buck. Last I saw him, he was cutting to my left. So I kind of dropped off over the side of these ridges that I was sitting on. Yeah, just been hauling ass over here. So I'm gonna crest this hill and see where he's at. Well, gave it a slip. Came up to a fence line. Moral of the story, if you find an antelope bedded and you have cover available to close the distance, do it. Cover that ground quickly because they can just seem to disappear into thin air. The tactic that seemed to work the best for us was driving down these 2-track roads into these patches of wide open expanse, hoping to spot antelope. A lot of the times we did, seeing as we'd crest a hill by foot rather than in our vehicle, like you'll see in this next clip. Alright, so we spotted 2 huge groups of antelope from the other road. They might have been on public, they might have been on private. So we drove around to the other side, and now we're walking in on them to see where they're at. As we continued progressing forward, we couldn't help but notice that the public land was dwindling, and there was no sign of these antelope. Once we reached the corner of the fence, we saw both herds clearly on private land. Sometimes there's nothing you can do about where they are. Well, we got our shit kicked in again today. Antelope hunting is hard.
Definitely hard.
It's 95 degrees. Yep. We had some okay encounters, I guess. Not as close as we had those does last time, but we saw 2 really big herds of antelope, so that was cool. And I had that buck that I spotted from a mile away this morning. But we got birthday antelope left, and then that's probably going to be about it. Maybe get another weekend in later in September in between deer and elk hunts, but we'll see.